Yellen, according to the White House, under President Biden's 2025 budget, no one earning less than $400,000 per year will pay a penny in new taxes. I agree with that. I agree it's a bad idea to raise taxes on Americans suffering from record inflation at this point. Interestingly, though, the president's budget is essentially silent on extending the individual tax provisions of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, many of which expire next year. This first question can be just a simple yes or no. Are you aware that the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which Republicans passed in 2017, reduced the taxes for Americans of all income groups, including those earning less than $400,000 per year?
Yes, and the president has made clear that he would oppose raising back the taxes for working people and families making under $400,000 when those provisions expire.
So he would support extending those tax cuts. Good, that is good news. The TCJA also nearly doubled the standard deduction. Would that be included in what the president will continue to agree to support extending?
Well, I can't give you details other than saying that whatever agreement is reached, he's committed to not raising taxes on households making under $400,000.
All right, I think that this next one you've already answered to, but I want to ask it specifically. The TCJA also doubled the child tax credit to $2,000 per child. Would you agree that if the TCJA child tax credit provisions are not extended, this would also result in a tax hike for Americans making under $400,000?
Well, as I said, he's committed to not raising taxes on households making under $400,000 and has expressed a commitment to the importance of the child tax credit, which has dramatically lowered child poverty.
Well, this is good news. I'm understanding you to say that the president will support extending these policies in the child tax in the TCJA that would result in an increase in taxes on people making under $400,000. I'd also like to follow up, however, on the president's serious proposals for increasing taxes on the corporate rate. The bottom line there is if the president's proposal to increase the corporate tax rate to 28% is adopted, it'll make it the second highest combined corporate rate in the world, which will again result in corporate inversions, capital leaving the United States, increased prices for Americans, adding on to inflation, and reduced wages. Is the president seriously considering causing those kinds of economic impacts when we need to have our economy stay strong and have our wage growth be vibrant?
I agree with you that we need a strong economy, and we would not want to see capital flee from the United States to foreign shores. That's the reason for supporting the OECD's tax pact, which many countries, including the UK, Japan, the European Union, and others are now putting into effect. They're putting into effect a 15% minimum tax on multinational corporations.
Let me move to the OECD now, because as you know, the budget once again proposes to align U.S. global minimum tax with certain aspects of Pillar 2, but proposes a much more onerous version of it, including a rate 40% higher than the OECD deal, which is 21% versus 15%, and without any substance-based exclusion as provided under the deal. Last year, the administration's budget estimated that proposal, combined with one adopting Pillar 2's under-tax profits rule, would raise over $1 trillion. But this year's budget estimates for those two combined proposals come in at more than $500 billion lower. Is the year-over-year $500 billion estimated decrease a result of countries adopting Pillar 2 rules into law over the last year?
Yes, in a sense. When standard procedure is to estimate what the tax savings or expense would be under the assumption the United States adopts a policy, but does not assume that everyone else does. So when there are changes abroad, it does change the estimates.
Well, my time's expiring. I'll just say that the JCT has estimated that if both the rest of the world and the U.S. enact Pillar 2 next year, the U.S. would lose over $50 billion in revenue. This is a revenue loser for America and is damaging to our economy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Menendez.